Hey guys, so as you guys know, we're working on our house right now, and one of the things I need are curtains in my kitchen, but I don't want to buy curtains, I want to make them. So this is the plan. I have this Funky Junks Old Sign Stencil. It's like a flower, you know, and the pounds on there. So I'm thinking I want to put stripes on here and then put this on top of the stripes. I think that would be really, really cool. Or maybe I want to put this and then mask it and then do stripes. Oh Lord. So here I go again. I think this is what we're going to do. We're going to do the stencil first. We're going to mask it and then we're going to do the stripe on top of it so that it doesn't go through the stencil. I digress. I have here a drop cloth, and we're going to actually use this plain old drop cloth that you get at the hardware store to make some really cool curtains. Hi, my name is Royce Hunt Bell of Recycled Treasures. Let's get started. So you guys, I've already trimmed this because I didn't want to like be fighting with an entire drop cloth here on camera. So I have this one big piece, but I'm going to actually separate it into two pieces. I'm going to show you guys how I do it, because I actually want this rough edge. I'm not going to hem these. You see how I have that tattered edge there? I want that on my curtains because right now my kitchen is it looks really modern, which is not my aesthetic specifically. So I want to add some texture and different things in the kitchen to kind of make it feel a little bit more warmer. So I think that these curtains are going to do the job for the windows. So I'm going to fold this so that my two curtains are the same size, right? So that they match up. And then the one good thing about your any kind of duck cloth, really, because that's all these drop cloths are, is you can snip it and tear it and you'll get a straight line. So I have this hem at the bottom that I'm going to maintain because I think it'll be easier for my clips to grip onto that when I hang it on my window. So I'm going to cut through that and I'm just going to pull all the way down, and it's going to make a straight line all the way down. And so now I have two curtains that I can hang in my window. And so you guys can do that, and then you end up with this really cool rough edge here that I think is fabulous. Now when I'm done, I on purpose I haven't washed this yet because I don't want this to look like a freshly stenciled curtain. I want them to look like they're like old, you know, flour sacks. And so we're going to stencil them today, and then I'll heat set them, and then I'll wash and dry them because I want them to look like they're worn and like they had some age on them. So let's do one together. So I'm going to fold this one and set it aside, and we'll work on this one. And like I said, I want the top, I have this lip on the top, and I'm going to leave this as the top because I think it'll be easier for my clips, because I'll be using the little rings with the clips to hang my curtains to be able to hold on to that. So, but I want it to be this size. So I want to make sure my curtains are facing the right direction. And let's do our stencil first, and then we'll do our stripes. I think that's going to be a better look. And there's actually a piece of paper inside of this stencil, and I'm going to use it to make a mask. So you're probably saying, what do you mean, Royce, by making a mask? I'm going to show you guys. We're actually going to do that first. So this is the piece of paper here. I have some white gel pens on my workbench, but you can use chalk or anything. You don't have to use black paper, but this paper comes with it, so I figured why not, right? So we're going to take this and we're going to just, I'm just going to outline like the outside of the general shape of this one. So I'm not going to trace everything, but I'm going to trace like the exterior portions of this so that I know where to cut out, because I want my mask to be pretty close to my actual stencil. And so I'm just going to trace out these kind of outer portions so I know where to cut. And so now I have this really general shape of my stencil, and I can just cut that out and create a mask so that our stripes don't go through our wording, but they go around them. And I'm cutting pretty close because I want my stripes to go close to it, but not through it. If I were going to be doing something out here on the edges, I would worry about going into that R, but we're not going to be going out there. Our stripes are going to go right here down the center. So that's why I'm really focusing on cutting my mask, is in that center portion, so that my stripes really do go through my artwork and not in front of it. I am going to cut this out because I have a feeling that I may have a stripe that goes through there. And I think I will just put this mask back in the package with the stencil, and that way I'll have it for future projects too. Okay, so now I have my mask, and again, it's not perfect, right? But it's going to serve its purpose. And we're going to use that in a few minutes. But first, let's get our stencil done. So I want to make sure that I get a nice clean stencil. So what I'm going to do is actually spray my stencil, spray the back of my stencil so that I can stick it to my fabric before I start. And this is Pixie spray, you guys. I love the Pixie spray because it's a really light tack, so it's not like super stuck to my stuff, and it washes off of my stencils relatively easily. So I'm going to just do a light spray of my Pixie spray over the back of my stencil. I want to make sure that like around the letters is where I'm really getting good spray. I'm going to make sure, I want it kind of close, like in the middle, but on the bottom in the middle. So I guess the bottom third is where I want it. And I'm centering it. And I'm just going to rub it down. And so that way I'm more likely to get nice clean edges when I stencil. And the Pixie spray really is my favorite, you guys. I've tried others, and this is the one that I use, especially when I'm doing fabric. When I'm stenciling, you guys, I'm only going to load a little. I'm going to load a full thing of paint on my brush, but I'm going to unload the majority of that before I go into my stencil. So I want it to be evenly loaded, right? But then I'm going to go in and just offload, like, honestly, the majority of that paint, I'm going to offload it. So when I start, I'm going to pounce my stencil because I'm going to go straight down and I'm less likely to get any bleed under my stencil. So I'm basically unloading like more of my paint, but I'm unloading it onto my fabric piece. And when you're stenciling fabric, you do need a little more paint than if you were doing like a non-porous surface or like wood. But you still want to be cautious of how much paint you're using. And after I've offloaded the majority of the paint off of my brush, I'm going to start swirling, because this is my favorite way to stencil. I just feel like I always get a nice, you know, even look when I swirl. But I don't want to start this too early because then I risk pushing paint underneath my stencil. And this method, you guys, is really cool if you ever wanted to like do a blended effect on a stencil. Like if you had a pretty color, you could start off lighter over here and then get darker, or vice versa. So you could actually do your own ombre just by controlling how much paint that you're doing, that you're, you know, putting on your stencil. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this right now. I don't have like complete coverage. If I wanted to have a really solid complete coverage, I would let this dry and I would go in with another coat of chalk paint, but I don't, because remember, we want this to look like it's aged and a little worn. So I'm happy that there's some places that are a little uneven and irregular. So I'm just gonna take that stencil off. See how easy it lifts? It tacks, but it doesn't like I don't know, it's good. When I clean my stencils, you guys, one of the things that I love to use are melamine sponges. So most of us know them by magic erasers, but you can find melamine sponges on Amazon really inexpensively, and they work magic when it's time to clean your stencils. Okay, so now that that is dry, you guys, we can move on to the next step. I did want to know, because I didn't tell you guys what color I used. I used Wise Owl in Carbon. I didn't use black because I want these to look a little worn, a jet black, which Wise Owl's black is a jet black, would have been much more stark. But by using the Carbon, which is a lighter black, I think I'm going to come closer to the look that I want to achieve from this. And so I'm going to put my mask down on here, and it's going to cover up all the work that we've just done so that we can do our stripes. I think I'm going to use the Pixie on my mask too. I'm just going to do a light coat of the Pixie and just tack it down to my stencil, so that way I don't have to worry about that shifting while we're working. And I want to put my stripe down the middle. So I guess it's kind of nice I accidentally put that register there, because I know that that's the center. And I'm just going to use regular tape, you guys. I think I'm just going to do one simple stripe down the middle. Now, if you want to do multiple stripes, you could use different widths of tape, right? And you could make like maybe 2 thin stripes and then 2 thick stripes, or 1 thick stripe and then 2 thin stripes. I'm thinking that I'm just going to do 1 stripe down the middle of this, and I have those register marks that I painted by accident. Nobody else will see them, and I think they'll disappear when I wash this, but I can see them. And so my stripe is going to go around my stencil now instead of going through it. And maybe we'll do, let's do 2 small stripes down the side. I'm just eyeballing it though. And again, if you're a person who's like meticulous, you can measure. I know I'm driving somebody crazy because I'm an eyeballer, for better or for worse. So those are my stripes, and I'm going to do the same thing using my DIY stencil brush and the Wise Owl Carbon paint. I'm going to load my brush. You know, people ask me all the time, like, what's the secret to stenciling? It really is patience, you guys. It's patience, because we naturally want to load up paint on our brush and just get it all done in one coat. But usually you have to do a couple of passes, especially if you're wanting like full floor coverage. But for what we're doing today, you guys, this is perfect. And how fun to be able to make your own curtains and make them, customize them specifically for your space. So if you're a coffee liker or a coffee lover, you can use a coffee sack. So now I've painted all of my stripes, you guys. They're all painted in. And again, it's pretty solid, but it's not completely solid because I want this to look like an aged grain sack. So I'm going to lift this up carefully because I'd like to save my mask to be able to use it for another project. So that's the only reason. I mean, I have another curtain to make, right? Otherwise, you could just rip it up. But I have a mask under here and I don't want to rip it. So I'm being kind of careful. So I can use that for my other curtain. And look how easy it was to create like your own curtains for your space. Now, I'm doing curtains, right? But you guys could absolutely take this exact same process and you could do a seat to a dining room chair. You could do a throw pillow in your living room, which I may do. There's all kinds of options for this. So even though I'm making curtains, the reality is you could use this exact same process and make just about anything in your home. How cute is that, right? And I love the fact that the edges are unfinished. And what'll happen is after I wash and dry this, the weave will tighten up and the strings will actually stop coming out. And so I'm gonna wash this and dry it, and it's going to loosen up the fabric, and it's going to wash out some of my paint, and I'm going to have the look that I want. But there's one really important step that we want to make sure that we do before we wash it, and that's we want to heat set it. And I'm going to show you guys how I heat set my pieces. In order to heat set this, you guys, I'll be using two things. One is a Teflon sheet. You can use like tissue paper or parchment paper if that's what you have on hand. I like using the Teflon sheets because I can reuse them over and over again, so they're sustainable. But also I feel like they transfer the heat a lot better than just the regular paper. I'll also be using my mini Cricut, which I've forgotten to turn on. And for this specific project, I think I'm going to put my mini Cricut on 3. I really want it to be hot because I want to heat set this paint into my fabric so that when I wash it, it doesn't all wash out. I just want it to be a little bit dull, but not washed out completely. So with Wise Owl Chalk Synthesis paint, when you heat set it, it is set. So you'll be good to go, and you won't have to worry about it washing out, even if you launder them over and over again after you created your curtains. So it's gonna beep at me when it's ready. So as soon as that's ready, we can start heat setting this. So now that my mini press has beeped at me and let me know that we're ready to go, I am just gonna run this right over my Teflon sheet, you guys. And all it does is just heat sets this paint so that it doesn't move when I put it in the washer machine. I'm probably gonna put about a half a cup of vinegar in my washer when I wash these, you guys, because I really want these to be soft and to get rid of like any sizing or anything that's in the fabric. And it's also gonna help to make my my paint job look a little bit more worn. I am super excited with this project and how it came out. It just came out so good. I don't always know, y'all. Sometimes I have ideas and they just don't work out. So I'm always excited when it actually works out. So if you guys are trying something new and it doesn't work out the first time, or it doesn't come out the way that you envisioned, don't be discouraged. The only way that you can grow and to learn and to figure things out is to experiment. And unfortunately, part of experimenting is failure. But you know what? It's the only way to push yourself. And that's it. And those are going to be my new curtains in my kitchen. I love them. Love, love, love them. I'm probably going to need 4 of these panels to cover my whole you know, area. So I'll flank 2 plain pieces with these 2 with the topography on them. And so I'll be sure and post a picture when we get them all hung up. But if you guys like this tutorial, be sure and subscribe to the channel. We upload new videos every week. If you want to get alerted when we upload a new video, just hit the bell and you'll get the alert. If you are looking for supplies I used today, I'll be sure and put links below in the comments so you guys can find them. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for this tutorial today. Everything that I did here today, you guys can absolutely do. So you guys just remember, you can do this. You can do this today. We'll see you next time.